Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. You join me on a beautiful spring day in the UK. As you can see from outside here, it is absolutely fantastic. I think it's about 17, 18 degrees right now, which for me is perfect. It's not too hot, not too cold. Yeah, perfect for me. As you probably might have noticed as well, I finally got my hair cut. When I had the long hair, a lot of people commented on that I looked better with it, younger or whatever, and I kind of agreed and I liked it. So I said to the woman, I want to keep the length on top, just tidy it up around the back and sides and blend it in. And this is what she did. So yeah, anyway, so what I wanted to do today is, a little while ago on Joe Rogan, if you watch my channel regularly, you'll know I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan. When I do the trips back and forth between Italy and here, I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan as well. And there's one of the people he had on is a chap called Brendan Schaub, and they're both mixed martial artists, and Brendan Schaub was for a time a fighter in the UFC, and they're both stand-up comedians, and they both have podcasts and stuff like that. Anyway, in the interview, they were talking about Conor McGregor, and I touched upon this once before. I made a video about Conor McGregor, and they were talking about, in this podcast, they were saying about Conor McGregor, and there was a lot of misinformation in there about which yacht he owned and all this kind of stuff. And these guys, they don't know anything about yachts, but they're just talking. You know, if for any women watching, if you ever want to know what guys talk about when there are no women around, you check out the Joe Rogan podcasts, and you'll find out. In this particular one, they go on to, Joe Rogan starts talking about a friend of his who owns a super yacht, and he says, then he starts to talk about what it must be like to own a super yacht and what the crew get up to when the owner's not on board. And I thought it would be interesting to make a video about it and talk about what they say and then compare it to what actually really happens. All right, so let's go ahead and do it.
I hate to brag about my rich friends, but I have a rich friend that look at that thing.
That'd be fun as fuck.
That's the sailboat?
It'd be fantastic.
Pretty cool.
Do a podcast on there.
Joe buys a yacht.
Bro.
Dude buys a yacht.
Podcast on a yacht sounds like a lot of fun.
That's like fights on a yacht?
I have a friend who actually bought a yacht. I was going, well, who drives it? He goes, there's a full-time staff. They live on the yacht all year round. They're there all the time.
Do you have to pay their salary?
I go, what? He goes, like they're all year round. Yeah, they live there. They're on his yacht right now. I go, so it's their yacht.
Well, obviously that's not true. They do live on board. There is a crew that lives on board. All of the crew don't live on board all of the time. There's a rotation, so there are different people living on board. So what they don't understand is the crew have their own area that they live on. So, you know, for Joe Rogan, he's thinking that they're living in the same cabins that the owner would live in, which is obviously not true. The crew have a crew area, and the crew do not go into those other areas unless they're doing a job in there.
I go,
yeah.
It's like if you have a house,
it's a timeshare, and
there's a bunch of people partying at your house, and they clean it up right before you come in.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
And you smell other people's farts in your sheets.
Yeah.
Okay, so he says that the crew are partying on board, sleeping in your bed, and all this kind of stuff, and they just clean it up before you arrive. Clearly, that is not the case. We are career professionals. We don't treat other people's property that way. Here's another thing. If any of you have ever been in the military, you'll know that when you're held to such a high standard, you have to make sacrifices to keep that standard high, because it's an impossibly high standard in the military. I'll give you an example. In boot camp, your bedding and all of your uniform and everything that's in your room, you have to make it perfect every morning for inspection. Now the standards of it are so high, what we had to do in the military is we had to take all our sheets and fold them into a thing and put it at the end of the bed, and a pack with all of your sheets lined in it and your blankets and everything like this. And you had to have your cupboard open with all your uniform in, pressed and everything. So what we did, it was so difficult to maintain that standard. Some guys slept on the floor, so they didn't have to disturb the sheets. They would do it the night before. or they would put this bedding pack to one side, sleep on the bed in the sleeping bag, get up in the morning, place it on board. So the standard is so high that they had to work out a way to keep it so high and not touch it. And that's what we do on the yacht. So that when the owner leaves, obviously all of the bedding is stripped off, all of his personal belongings are secured in safes and in places of storage, and the room is, you know, cleaned, and then it's prepared for a status of nobody being in there. So, but it's immaculately clean, and the crew will go in there. The people that are in charge of cleaning, they'll go in there probably once a week, and they'll clean and dust and all that kind of stuff. Those rooms are not used by the crew. The same with the public areas, the areas where the owner would go and sit, you know, to watch movies and stuff like that. The crew don't go in those areas. So we have our own areas in the crew areas, right? We have a crew lounge, depending on the size of the yacht. You have a crew lounge with TVs and stuff like that, or you might just have a crew mess with a big TV on the wall, and the crew will hang out in those places. And then when the boat is laid up, then let's say we're in Palma or Mallorca, we're laid up there, and in the evening the crew will go out and come back and go to their cabins. They do not go in the guest areas. They do not use the guest facilities, like the gym. Even the guest gym is not used by the crew. Usually, if you have one, if your yacht's big enough and you have a crew gym, you'll use that, and if not, you go out and go for a run or something.
Like, you
Some
don't
dudes
think
bringing girls back to that yacht all the
people
fucking
are
time?
banging chicks on your
Every
bed?
port?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, dude.
It's so weird. Like, are you counting all the liquor you got in there?
Okay, so two more things that he says there. That he says that the crew are, well, in a way, they're assuming that all the crew are men, because they're saying that they'll be bringing back women and having sex in those guest areas. Like I said, we don't go in the guest areas when the guests are not on board, but also we are not allowed to bring people on board. So even people who are married are not allowed to have their wife stay in their cabin, even if that person has a single cabin. So, like, let's say a chief officer or a captain, even though they have a single cabin, so they have a double bed in their cabin, they're still not allowed to bring their wife on to stay on overnight. That's how strict it is. So the idea that they're going to go out and meet some woman in a bar and bring her back to the boat and have sex in a guest cabin is just unheard of. Oh yeah, and the next question is, or the next point is that the crew are also drinking all of his alcohol, and that again is not true. A lot of the yachts I've worked on have massive cellars, wine cellars, or alcohol storage areas. That's a bonded store. Those stores are secured, and usually one person has the key to that store, and they're not allowed to go in and take things out. So nobody's drinking the owner's alcohol. One of the things that might happen is if some of the alcohol becomes, in the few occasions I can remember in over a decade on super yachts, I remember once we were in Italy, and some of the alcohol in the bonded store, they couldn't account for it receipts-wise. So the Italian government or the Italian authorities said that you have to get rid of everything out of that store because it's not, you can't keep it on board because they couldn't account for like a couple of items. They had to get rid of everything in the store. Some of the bottles were already open, some of them were new. So what they did is they put it all in the crew mess, and they let the crew take from it. And that was because it was going to get thrown out, right? So we couldn't keep it. So they gave it to the crew. Now that was a decision made by the captain for the crew. Otherwise it was going to go in the bin. So that has happened to me. I've been on one yacht that's happened to in over 11 years. So yeah, it's pretty rare.
So he pays full time for the staff.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you have a full-time...
different level.
But I go, couldn't you just rent a yacht? Like, when you wanted to? Like, you have money, and then they take care of all that shit? Isn't that a service?
That'd be smart, right?
It seems like a better way to go. You don't have to think about
But he
it.
has so much money. He's like, listen, I don't know, dude.
So the next thing is that, yeah, you have to pay for this crew. He said, wouldn't it be better to just rent a yacht? Well, that is a reasonable proposition. It just depends on how much do you want to use it. Like, I've worked on yachts where the owner has only used the yacht for a couple of months a year. Now, in those circumstances, it would be better, theoretically, and it would be better from a money standpoint for that person to just charter a boat every summer, because the owner I was working for, he only used it in July and August. So for 2 months a year, the amount of money that he paid for that yacht, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, if you consider, if he spends all his money on the yacht and he's struggling to maintain it, but then he's only using it for 2 months a year, that makes perfect sense. But if you're worth 10 billion and your yacht costs 300 million and the upkeep of that yacht is 30 million a year, that's not a lot of money to that person. So it's a bit like having a car. Like my 911, I don't use it that much. I use it maybe 1,000 miles a year, which is not a lot. And theoretically, it doesn't make monetary sense for me really to have that car. But it doesn't cost me all of my money. It costs me a small amount of my money to maintain that car so I can use it when I want. And it's something that I love, so I keep it anyway. Now, technically, I could, I suppose, hire a car for those times I want to go on a road trip or whatever, but it's not my car. It's different. It's not the same thing. So I can kind of relate very loosely to what they're saying compared to owning the vessel. If you have so much money that it's inconsequential, then why not own one? Anyway, guys, I thought if you want to see the episode of Joe Rogan, it's episode 1603 with Brendan Schwab. It's very good. I love listening to Joe Rogan. It's really good. If you've got any other recommendations for other people talking about yachts who don't apparently know what they're talking about, send them to me, and maybe we can do a video like this on what they've been saying, and we can correct the inaccuracies in the story. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go and enjoy the day outside because it is beautiful. So thanks for watching. Post your comments below, and I'll catch up with you soon. And if you're new to the channel, welcome, by the way. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you're going to subscribe if you haven't already. Please also be sure to like this video because it helps get recommended to more people. So if you watched it and you're about to click off, just click that like button. That would be great. Thanks very much. All right, guys, I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.